There's three of them.
Okay. Oh, did you need one? I got one. You got one? I can read it twice as fast. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Okay, there's no changes that I know of for an hour tour today, so I make a motion that we approve our agenda for January 24th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Make a motion on minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 17th.
And I'll second that. Okay, got a motion a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, meetings attended.
Oh Lord, I got a couple. Where do we start? I had them all wrote down. I didn't bring my paper. We met with the Sheriff's Department last week on the school resource officer. I thought we had it all pretty well hammered out, but that stuff may change today. So we'll see what the city of Columbus comes up with. I don't know that from what I've heard, they're on board yet. They were, and then now they're recanting. So we'll see what that brings today. I had a Zoom meeting with Mississippi Valley Workforce Development. That kind of come off the rails a bit. The meeting didn't go quite as planned. All they wanted to talk about was how do I say it? Getting off the board. Dissolving it.
Really?
Yeah.
Which board is that?
The partnership of the Mississippi Valley Regional Workforce Development. There's some counties on the West Coast that don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. They don't feel they're being represented correctly, and the money's not allocated right, and they want out.
And I think the reason is because there's a group of handpicked people from the governor that are the head boards. And so they kind of supersede anything.
Well, there's some rumblings on the east side, which is our side. Danny Chick is Muscatine. He was just elected, and myself were new, so we were asking some questions because we didn't quite understand. And the federal government lady that was on there wasn't very receptive. She was a little agitated that we wanted to do that. And the director said, well, if you're going to do it, make sure you notify me first. Well, it appeared to me that there was a bunch of government people walking around, patting each other on the back, showing everybody how great of a job they're doing, and nobody's doing anything. So nothing has changed as of yet, but if it does get dissolved, it looks like it reverts to the state, and the state runs it instead of the area board, I guess.
Do you know why the counties have a supervisor representative on it? Did they ever explain that to you?
No.
If there's any mismanaged money, that's why we overlook our budgets. Each county's by population is responsible for that percentage to make up over expenditures, wrong expenditures. And that's why it's very important that if we do, we get completely out of it.
Well, it has to be a vote of the majority for it to be removed.
Yep.
It wound them up so much that absorbed the entire meeting for the hour and a half.
Yeah.
And they're going to have, instead of skipping a week, they're going to have another Zoom meeting this Friday about it. So I'll let you know what's going on with that. a little overwhelming, but I did catch a vast majority of what was going on.
Where did it start from? You know what county?
So what all she would say was the west side of the state.
Okay.
And
So
all
it's
she would say-
movement somewhere in Iowa.
Yeah,
The whole other area.
yeah, and then everybody else is starting to take notice. Well, if they can do it, why can't we? What's going on? So,
Okay, thanks for that.
yeah. And then there was earlier in the week, there was a meeting that Cindy went to. I didn't make it. It was in Mount Pleasant, childhood development. She could probably bring me up a little more speed than I could, but I wasn't able to attend to that with all the other stuff we're doing right now, so that's all I've got.
Okay, I had solid waste transfer and we didn't have enough for a quorum. So I'm gonna reach out to the each of the cities. Didn't have any city representation show up. There's stuff we need to do. We gotta get our budget approved too, so we have another meeting scheduled next week. Just gathering some cost yet on windows out the complex. I'm trying to get out there to get the measurement just before we have material estimate. I think that's it. There's some other stuff I say right now.
I didn't have anything other than the normal phone calls. Got anything from the public here? Good. All right, here's some payroll changes. I'll pass them over to Dawn.
Good morning, Margaret. How you doing? Good. How you doing?
Did you? It says review wage report. There's that.
We get it.
We did.
Yeah, we do. You're so weird.
This is one that has to be published in the paper.
We had one gone and one come in.
Yeah, we're losing them as fast as we're gaining them.
Story behind it.
Here's that.
Next on our list. You want me to set on our list today for a resolution? Yeah, 23-310. That's at the end of the day today.
No, we could,
You want me to do that? You want to skip down?
the 12.
That's.
Is that all right? We don't have nothing until 9 o'clock, so. We'll get the sheriff's.
Adam said he knew about us. And how we could do this for-
This is what it means, and all this extra GPS and all that stuff.
Let me go ahead and make this resolution, Chris.
Yeah.
I'll make item number 12. I'll make a resolution to accept, I'll make a motion to accept resolution 2023-10, which is setting the elected officials' wages for fiscal year 24.
As we had said.
Yes, it is correct.
What we did, yes.
I'll
Yep.
second that.
Okay.
Mighty.
It was.
Did you second it? Okay, we have motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You want me to sign this?
Aye, the chairman signed, or do we all three sign?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, some is one and some is one.
And this is just for Rue.
I think it's one.
Yeah, okay, this we review, isn't sign or motion or anything, it's sheriff's
Quarterly report.
all the revenue the sheriff brings in. He just grinned and looked up. Hey, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I reviewed the sheriff's office quarterly report. Good morning. Good morning. Morning. Snuck in, I didn't see you coming. See the guy back there with the beard. Me on the sneaker.
Hey, Brandon, I see that the deposits for the sheriff's department or the state bank, are they staying with the state bank or Minneapolis?
Yeah, that's good.
I'd be curious.
All kind of switched over today.
Did it?
So far, so good, I think.
Do I need to initial this or anything?
Nope,
No,
it's just for our,
okay,
just a review.
all right.
So we are reviewing stuff until Adam gets here.
So the total payroll is 5,000,000. That's 52,544.95.
The new one.
Yeah.
Was the
No,
No, this is free.
They're kind of.
NS calendar year.
They're gonna add on.
Based on last year.
And that's got your assessor, which they have their own
Budget.
Okay,
levy. And it's their emergency management and everything has its own funding. And so
You'd be able to call down on, they're calling people to use this call and where you would call about anybody over 100, but that make a difference. 100 employees. To today's standards. I don't know if we got a different set of rules, but they base it on a hundred basis, anything over 100.
I don't know, maybe he's just gonna touch on that this week.
How many employees total?
Well, we're sitting at, it's a 98, we was, and but with the 2 SRO officers now that been added, this might be that 100.
Well, one was already, L&M was already.
Yeah.
Greg was already a sheriff.
He was already an officer, he just moved.
But we add.
Did you add one to replace Greg? Yeah, so that would.
I think we did.
Well, we're using Greg's wages for reimbursement.
Oh, he's going on.
Yeah, we're a total amount of county employees.
I think we're at 100, gonna be at 100, that's.
That we lost to jail.
Yeah, and so that's like the federal government, they're doing for shots of accidents, they'll just base that 100 above. That they're trying to push through right now, so rules change. You get more than 100 things.
Does the reserves count for that number?
No.
I guess somebody's gonna have to get fired.
Maybe.
Morning. Morning. I got chairs in back. Wow.
I think there's
Morning,
more
sirs.
by the copier.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's gonna end bad. I don't see it. I just haven't got a conversation with your houses.
In the pool, we would be.
I think it's. Well, I think.
I don't
All
know.
the new ones. Hold on.
It is. It looks like it's starting without you.
All right, very. On a copy of the handle.
I didn't tell you what I do. I just come over here on the desk.
He doesn't want to pile
I have a whole pile of budgets.
Falling down on my job here.
Tom, everything's in these files. You're welcome to look through them. This is all news.
All right. Full budgets.
All budgets.
He didn't have to go around to my driveway. After snow. There was, I don't know, if there was Amazon or food, but brought a package the other day to us and put it on the balcony. Sitting around our backyard, just put it, walked around. Somebody came on and said, "I will make it walk in the snow." And I heard that. But it got out. Probably then I'll go to the birthdays and literally your house. And then I was like, they break you on solar and I guess it's not, it's nice. They're real nice. In morning. Yeah. We're ready for your reports.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh,
So. Go around. She's in there. I don't know, she's in the. Now it's really good. And you know. I want to. No.
Hang on a second.
Clark, can we? We're getting a report from our engineer. That's all right.
You can do whatever.
Yeah.
Well.
You're not gonna upset us.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so yeah, not much to report this week. We had a little bit of snow this weekend. Went out and actually got some weekend plowing done, which has been rare this year. That's a good thing, Adam. Yeah, I know. Yeah. We've had some years where it only snows Saturday nights for some reason. I mean, just you guys remember a couple of years ago, it's just like every Saturday night it was snowing. You'd always be out on Sunday plow and stuff. Looks like we have some more coming this week, but we're ready for it. Days like today, we're out clearing brush and burning logs and things like that. So, other than that, we're working in the office there on budget stuff. Construction started on the Edmondson Bridge yesterday, so they're demoing it today, and hopefully maybe get working on piles or something next week if weather allows and all that. I mean, it's cold, but it's not. Ground's not really frozen yet, so they're able to keep going on the demolition. I think good stuff's going on. I have to go to Cedar Rapids a couple days this week for a federal aid seminar, because a lot of our projects, were swapped, so they didn't have the federal aid attachment on them, and now that's back into a situation where a lot of these projects are going to be federal project now, so there's all kinds of new hoops and things to jump through. So other than that, I don't have a lot. Any questions for me? Any issues going on out there?
No, and that bridge, how long is that anticipated the road can be closed?
I said late spring.
late spring.
I'm not giving dates because then people get angry at me. If it's a couple weeks ahead, nobody will remember that, but it's a couple weeks after, everybody will remember, so. That, haven't heard any complaints yet, so. On 92, I have had a couple people asking about where that project is, and was supposed to be let in December and then pushed back to January. I don't know, pushed back to February now. Mark, have you heard anything from the DOT on any of that?
It was supposed to be let in January. I have not, but I don't think it has. And trying to get a meeting together.
And I know they've been trying to do some right away work and stuff like that in town. There's been some consternation about some of those things that so. But I don't know, you know, I was telling him there was a question about if utility worker along 92 would bring fiber into collar, and I asked the DOT that on Friday, and then how much response from them. So I don't know if they're busy or don't know where things are there. So
No phones, maybe, yeah.
I don't know. So other than that, a lot going on.
I heard it's February.
Yeah, I mean it was December, then it would change. Obviously back. So I don't know if that means they're gonna get it all done in the calendar year like we talked about. I've always been skeptical of that. And the main
It's a big project.
yeah, so you know, they're moving dirt and all that and to raise all that. Most slow them down, so.
But when they did the work on 78, why didn't they do their 10 yards of 822?
They weren't supposed to go on to 61, and so that it wasn't asked of us, you know, like.
Yeah.
But then they added that on after or during the project or something and never touched base back with us to 61. I'm guessing in 5 years, 5-7 years, that new interchange will be there, and Highway 78 will go, east of a quarter mile or something.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, I'm guessing that's why I didn't do
thought.
it. I don't know.
But if their whole section about holds water, this all
Yep.
tore up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a couple calls myself on that.
Then the ramp at the end of it. You had hard enough to get air for 2 feet.
Slow down a little bit. Chris.
Well, then,
Yeah.
I also heard they wasn't done with the paving project.
I had heard that they had rumble strips and shoulders to be done. I talked to Mike, who had talked to the DOT inspector last week, and he thought that they were done, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, because the people that they stayed at the motel all summer. And said that it was gonna come back with spring, so.
Okay. Yeah, my understanding, the only work that was done was the specialty, the coming in and grinding in rumble strips and things like that, which is a different crew, but maybe there's something else going on. So I'm not 100% plugged into that. So
I don't have anything else.
all right. Well, I'll see you guys around 11.
That sounds great.
All right.
Right back.
Thanks for coming in. Well. It's all right with everybody. I think we'll get started. We're 5 minutes earlier than we're scheduled, but let's get started.
With me?
Yeah.
Did you guys have some questions or you requested that we come, so I'm here.
No, I think that the reason why we asked you to come back in today is because we're still trying to resolve the 25, whatever the agreement was. I don't know anything more about it than when we left last week. So that's why I think everybody was asked, because we wasn't getting anywhere in here. And so we.
Oh, on the
This is for
This
the
is for the
ambulance.
Oh, ambulance.
Ambulance.
Balances and funding possibilities.
Well, I think this is the reason why is we're getting a talks going forward on the ambulance. to find out how we can help change it around, turn it, to slow it down, or go different directions. And that's where we're trying, because we see where it's progression over the past. I thought I left it out of here. Where they simple took a picture of it. It's showing us getting deeper, and with your own evidence last week that you see it going the same direction. So we're just trying to get everybody together here today to get it back on discussion, see if there's a chance that we can figure out how to change the direction, how to change operations. I don't know. We're just brainstorming today, just trying to figure out how can we get it going the other direction.
Well, we're more than happy to take suggestions. Again, there's I don't know any detail necessarily on any of the other ambulance services in the county. All I really know is information on ours. Before, and obviously before we took it over, it was decided by the previous group that they were having difficulty staffing it. And so they decided to go with full-time people. And I could ask Jim for sure, but I think Jim came on board mid-year, like in July or
August 1st.
August 1st.
Of what year?
21.
Okay.
So right before the merger.
So we had no financial experience to speak of on what it means when I go into a person paid staff. So it was going to take I didn't think it would take this long, but it has taken a while to get enough financial information and enough statistics to find out how this can or would work, because we have nothing to go on. We do have volunteers, but we don't have enough volunteers to staff. And I don't know, Jim, what do we have? 16?
Yeah, roughly 14 to 16 that do step up and pick up a lot of call time, but most of that is on the Grandview side, the Auto 7 drive.
And that generally seems to be in the evenings too.
Yes, yes.
So anyway, when you take a look at our profit and loss, and this is not according to accountants, this is something for us. It is losing. We figured it would lose after we got about so far in, and how to do that. I don't without volunteers, I don't know as that's going to change. I don't know as it's getting any worse. I would say, to be honest with you, it's probably getting a little better. But I don't believe there will come a point in time where it will pay for itself or anywhere close. I think you guys have got the bookkeeping. I've got more if you want it.
She's trying to print it off her. I took a picture of it because we put them back in the documents and they get sent over to there, so I don't have a copy with me. So that's why I was hoping we can print this off.
I don't have the word.
You mean the one we got last week?
Yeah.
Do you have it, Sean?
I think so.
I couldn't find one.
I brought some, but I didn't bring enough for everything.
We got a copy here if I need that.
One from last week are not been updated. It was through December. Oh, it's good.
You got a copy, Mark? I'll make some copies. Yeah. That way we're on the same page. And thank you. That's a good idea. Somebody needing any sausages.
Start.
I don't see it's been missing every time.
I'm not ready to pick me while I go through.
Yeah.
I get to one side and start this.
Oh, okay.
Good morning. Need another cup of coffee?
How do you need one?
I'm okay.
How many more? Would you like? Any more? Any more? Okay. Anybody else? No. Thanks. Thank you.
And I'm sorry the printing's so small, but it's what it is. And I don't know whether you have specific questions or not, but again, I want you to realize that this accounting is for our purposes. And sometimes unless you know what's in it, you don't understand what's there. Just so you know, any billing that was done in the previous calendar year does not show on this. So there was an extra 20 or 25,000 that was billed by the old ambulance service that came to us, but does not show on here. There are also in the first couple of months are some expenses from previous ambulance service, and those expenses are in here. You also need to look in the income when it's set over on the far right hand side, the 452,000. What that represents is if you got paid for everything that you did, which you don't. The next number down is what the adjustments or write-offs were according to insurance companies and maybe Medicare or Medicaid. The next line down is the primary payments collected. That's money that actually has come in.
That's for the primary insurance.
From the insurance. The first two, again, the first two that I just talked about are not cash income. The 58,000, then the next one down is the remaining that we have billed, but it hasn't come in yet. The 29,000 is secondary insurance payments that we have received. The next one down is the subsidy from you guys. And then just some miscellaneous stuff. So the total cash income is 246,000. Again, that does not count the money that we still have coming of the approximately 58,000. The next column, 207, the next one is 278,000. That's the payroll. I guess it's pretty much straightforward.
The balance remaining, we could probably realistically expect to get 30% of that.
the
A lot
payroll.
of that is out for collections right now, so you know how collections.
Right.
Next, you go on down to operations, you can see uniform allowance dues, subscriptions, training. Operating supplies, one of the big ones, there is the first month, which again is expenses left over from the previous.
If I may, a big piece of that was replacing a multitude of expired equipment and supplies, so we can prepare for our state inspection since we were becoming, quote, a new entity.
You've got vehicle expense, which the top line, I assume, is mostly fuel. And then we've had some vehicle repairs and, you know, replace some tires and stuff. Going on down is again, office expense. You can see insurance is one of them. We break out from the city expense what insurance is attributable to the ambulance.
Mark, I don't see the other subsidies that the county give. That's where I was looking at last week. And that's why I didn't know if you had a different one, because we have had additional, I don't know when that subsidy.
You gave us $150,000, but it's not income, so it isn't on there.
But it's not listed as subsidy either, so that's why I was wondering.
No, I didn't put it on here because it's not income.
Okay. But it's not on this list at all, correct?
Correct.
So if it's not listed on there, how's that affect the bottom line? That's what I'm just trying to figure out in my head.
Doesn't affect it at all.
Where's the money at?
Where's the money at then?
You guys are getting, again, this is for our bookkeeping service. You're getting confused with an income statement versus a balance sheet. The income statement does not show loan proceeds.
It's in the checking account.
It's in the checking.
Yeah.
But I agree with Brad, you show the subsidy, what would that be any different than a subsidy?
Well, if you wanted to put it in the subsidy line, Sean sure may, then all of a sudden you come down, and so it just changed the bottom line $150,000, but that isn't the way you would account for it, so.
Right, I was just trying to see, we put that in there because we all see together that it was not going the right way.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to make sense out of it. Did it help? If it didn't help,
What do you mean help?
to get it where we can, our collections, see what we originally talked about, I'm going by memory, so correct me if I'm wrong. That we had a lot of billing that did not get done at that time.
Yes.
We was way behind. And we was anticipating that once all the billing came through, correct me guys, John wasn't here, but we anticipated that the back billing would equal or more than our subsidy when we originally talked, because we were so far behind on billing. That's the way I had to take on it.
We didn't have enough bookkeeping back at the time to be enough experience to be able to know that. We for the first 6 months, or not quite 6 months, had basically zero income. So we were running off of our money. And I was hoping that we could pay all or some of it back, but it was going to be over a period of time. Well, it's obvious to today, if you wanted, I could write you a check today for probably $90-some thousand out of the 150. But that would shut the ambulance business down.
Okay.
Let me ask you this, on your bottom line, the net income accrual. Starting about July, it looks like your billings are starting to kind of come around and
Yes.
things are trucking along pretty good.
Yes,
And then November, December, what happened there?
didn't have calls.
And we had, like December, we had, Jamie, correct me, the number, we had 57 calls. 17 of them are no transports. We can't collect any money. We ended up, I think, with 30 billing ones. And some portion of that is state aid. The state aid, you're gonna get about 15% of whatever you build. Even with Medicare does an adjustment and they give you 80% of the adjusted figure.
Wow, went from like almost 20 to $700.
If you take a look at call revenue, which would be that those that you can bill for is January is 34,000, then 32,000, then 35. If you get down to November, it goes to 32 and then 30, but it also makes a difference what the mix was of those calls.
I've tracked this for a year now, and when you get billable revenue, right now, we can pretty well say that we're gonna get about somewhere less than 50% of what was billed. That you're gonna get a return on. That's pretty well averaging out for the year, that you're gonna get somewhere less than 50% of what is billed for the year. So if we build 400,000, we're gonna get 200,000. That's pretty consistent every month. We get things like a state aid, which is 3 insurance companies, you got Medicaid, ITC, and Amerigroup. When you bill them, you might bill them $1,000, they'll give you 150, and then you got to write the rest of it off. You got to eat of it.
Right.
It just
Don't make sense, but
it don't make sense.
Right.
And our culture in Columbus Junction had a lot of state aid.
There's also not on there is the stuff well, it shows up, but obviously it doesn't show up as income. Yeah. I mean, we got money yet coming from that we billed in November and December that would still be in the form of accounts receivable, which is part of this.
Yeah, when we receive that billable income, we still have $220 balance left in January. When we get that January money, if it comes in, it'll go back against the January profit and loss. When we get the money in, it goes back against the month
In this bookkeeping.
Yeah. In the bookkeeping we have. Goes into the checking account and goes back into that month on top.
So in other words, if we haven't collected something from March and it comes in today, we go back and credit it in the month of March.
yeah, I get that.
So it will change.
Yeah.
It will
That's
change.
so we can understand the finance.
Yeah.
We don't. You know, if we went strictly with checking account, it doesn't.
But
Jason, do you have an updated Wapello call list? Did you happen to bring them for the year end with you? No.
Here,
When you get time, would I?
I don't really know what happened in November, December. It went down.
here is a call tracker.
Yeah, I mean, it,
And I do know in December, we had 17
I mean, if it would have went down to like 10, I'd say, okay, but.
Call tracker.
$700?
Call tracker is how,
Tracker.
or revenue tracker. That is each call that we bill. And it tells you what the call number was.
We can track every billable account number. We can track in detail down to the penny.
It's just a red flag. I mean, in my business, if my
I
sales
saw
were
that.
trucking along like that and my accountant looked at that and went, what the heck are you doing?
I saw that same thing.
You
And
go on vacation or something?
Well,
other than the fact, I know we had 17 non-transports in December.
Well, and
That's a
Wapello
high
has
number.
those too. You're always gonna have a certain amount of
Yeah.
non-transports.
But I don't know. I saw that number and I don't know why it went down either.
but if on this call tracker, again, you take the very first one was a run we must have made in January 2nd that we billed for. You can see the billing date wasn't until August. You know, again, I was telling you, we were having a hard time getting that squared around. We billed $1,200. They paid $589. The adjustments were $539 and a write-off of $147. So out of a bill that was $1,276, we only got $589.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, and each one that we have submitted is all listed on it. And what the status of each one was, what ones are owed yet.
And all of those numbers go into the profit and loss statement we have here. In fact, I'm working on now setting up, so automatically every day when we do an update, it will automatically update the profit and loss instantly. It's been a long process to get there, but we're getting there.
Yeah, but, and maybe I'm just not reading this right. On the November one, it says net income $746, but when I go to this sheet, it's showing like $13,000 in payment.
Yeah, but again, you gotta remember, when we get a payment, in the profit and loss, we go back to the month that it was earned and put it in. Also, November and December maybe has been billed, but there's no income. But anyway, if we build it, it shows up in the 740 some bucks. Or
We've got very little in December. We've got
cash money. We've got
maybe like a fair portion of November now.
So you're telling me like April of 2023, you may actually get paid for something in November, and you're gonna go back in November and put that in there?
And our that's the only way we can understand our finances.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes in the bank accounts today from that day, but we got to go back and account for it.
Yeah, but it makes your reaction time so much longer. From a business standpoint, you're not able
Sean,
to.
But what would you do? Go out and get more clients?
No, I would have it more up to actual month end. Not go back and, because you're gonna come back and then say, next year, you're gonna go, well, we're still here, but our payments were back. We applied them 6 months ago.
But a lot of it had to do with not the first half of the year, not billing up to date. Now and again, from this sheet, we know where we are.
By your checkbook.
No. This tells you, if we would collect everything that we did in the month of November, we're going to end up with $746. Because we haven't gotten paid, cash wise, we're still 16,000 and 22,000 in the hole.
Something to add on to that. I see in July of last year, you quit putting the date billed on there. And I like that number because then I can see where you was at on your billing, but it's not on your billing schedules anymore to show the date. I don't know how it got dropped off your spreadsheet, but it changed July 1st.
Yeah, I guess I didn't notice that. So,
but can that be added back on there so we can see how far back you are on the billing? Because
We can add that back on. I got left off of there. We can't. I mean, it'd have to go back to.
to me, that's how I know where you're at on the billing side.
I agree.
well, it tells you on here that we're owed on billing side $58,000.
But per call,
yeah,
it showed me exactly where you was at.
Yeah,
If you received it.
Well, that's
that
where
way.
the number came from. I guess they have a date on it. I guess.
I don't know how I got dropped off.
I don't know if it's billed yet or not billed yet, or
Well, no, it's all.
I'm just trying to,
Yeah, it's been billed. It's been billed. I just don't know why the date got dropped off.
The total from here are on this.
I agree, but see, I was looking here. It was
Yeah,
all
it-
here, all the way up to July 1st.
Yeah. And we'll get the date on, but I'm telling you that the number, it puts the dates on, but the numbers from here are all on here.
Right, but see, like you had a call in January, but it didn't get billed until August. That's where I'm looking how far back we are behind on the billing cycles. I know exactly what you're saying, and that's
Yeah.
correct, what you've received today, but
Right.
this is. I knew if we looked at it in February, it hasn't been billed yet, so we know that's not money coming in. And I'm just trying to forecast how much money you got coming in on all your calls. That's all I'm asking.
$58,000.
That's the balance. Yeah, I don't know how they got left off there, but you gotta realize also, when we started we had nothing from last year, other than we had a bank account, had some money in it. It was like $42,000 in the bank account. We started with nothing. Our first payment received for 2022 was received on March 7th. That's the first one we got for 2022. And we got very little yet in March, but basically we didn't start getting any of 2022 until April. And then we had some problems with Medicare, and they just saying, hey, we can't pay you because you changed tax numbers. We changed tax numbers, so we had to go through that whole thing. We basically didn't start getting much of 2022 until about May. So you see, when it wasn't billed till August, that meant the insurance company wouldn't take it. You know, they wouldn't accept anything from us till basically May or time frame or so when we first started being able to input into most of the insurance companies because it's tax number problems. So there was a big backlog. We're kind of caught up. If you look at the last 5 months, it started to be more normal the last 5 months, but we're getting a good flow now because we're submitting the billing. We're submitting billing at least every 2 weeks, and maybe more often than that, we submit the billing. So we're starting to flow a little bit.
So when you took this over, what date was that? Is that 21?
January 1st.
Of 2022.
22.
So how much money did you receive? Because if you took this over,
40,000.
42,000.
just in a checking account.
That's all we had.
But how come you didn't get any of the delayed billing?
We got some.
We did,
but
you just told me.
it doesn't show up in here.
It doesn't show up
in the
in
bank
here.
account.
You only got 20,000.
Not 25,000. And I don't even know how it was billed or what. We got nothing.
See, to me, that's my red flag here is, okay, all this delayed
I don't
billing.
think all got billed, to be honest.
That's where I want to know is the previous service, did you get all the assets
We got no.
when you
record.
took over? We need to get them records.
I don't know where they're at.
Well, we need to,
I know. I agree with you. I
because I don't think you got what's some of the Cindy billing? Wouldn't you say there'd be a larger chunk than 20-some thousand coming in on delayed billing from when
probably
they took it?
because we're averaging better than that right now.
I'm saying that's a red flag to me. And
Did we get anything, Mark? Any paper? We have anything? No records. We got bank account money. I think we got.
we need to get it because I think
Now, where do we go to get
we're
it? That's
still on the books there. If they didn't get billed,
Gentlemen,
we need.
we have quite a few records in boxes when all of this happened, the previous administration brought me boxes and boxes and said, here's all the old records. So
The state
we will dig through those and find every one of them and give them to the city.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
I got.
The merger,
What
the
that-
change of administration and the merger was not very.
I have to agree with. I don't think
It
it's
was
the
not
same
very
thing,
clean
but
move.
and the problem is some of these, if you
How do
don't
you
know
know?
within a year, you may have lost
Yeah, how do you know?
them. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
is there a deadline on back billing?
I think a
Yes.
year.
A year?
Yeah,
Is that true?
180 days.
180 days. That can't.
How do we get this August money?
Yeah, that can't. 180.
When we
can't
had a
be
call
correct.
in January, that's where.
The problem with that was when they
Yes,
merged
it
it,
is.
when they merged the services and of course the EIN number changed. It was brought to the city and during the merger that everything's just gonna float as smooth as pie. And that was not the case. They had to reapply to all the insurance companies to get all of that taken care of, to start submitting the billing again, and that was quite a process.
And it's not, I'm not saying this is not your fault. I'm saying this transition.
We received $28,157.09 from the previous
Listen again, please.
$28,157.09 from the previous. And if their billing
Was
was
that billing?
and if their billing was up to date, then.
I can get you the call volumes. We keep every call that your ambulance had before you guys took it over, so we can get an idea.
Then that would be fine.
And I'm not sure we can recover any of that. Yeah.
No,
I-
you might not be able to, but is it your responsibility? Somebody else should make that up. But that's money that you guys assumed this operation over. With the understanding that everything's gonna be coming to you that was passed. This is where I have a hard time with it.
Great.
I bought a business and I bought it and I got all these books and everything. And I had money coming in after I purchased it because that's what I was gonna make my payments, my startup. You guys didn't get it. That's where I'm questioning. Did you start out already in the hole because you didn't get that? I'm asking them questions. I'm not saying that
Yeah, I
they're
don't
keeping
know.
money back, but I want to know that answer.
But even if you do find that answer, isn't that water under the bridge at this point?
Kind of.
I mean,
Kind of,
After a
but
year.
I at least like to know the number, why they've had such a. They started backwards and it was tough on them to go, and we gotta find the reasoning that somebody not tell us the whole truth, nothing but the truth. And when we assumed this, we assumed that the billing was all completed and you guys would get the revenue off. I know you guys probably did, that you'd have some startup operating costs.
I didn't assume that we would get any more.
Boy, I tell you what, I would have. Yeah.
Well, you maybe would assume it, but you sure as hell wouldn't account on it.
If I may, during this whole process and working on things, we found a lot of calls that were inappropriately billed, and so they were rejected for different reasons, but they were never followed up on from the previous.
The other issue was that less than 2 months before we inherited it, they'd gone to 4 full-time people.
Yes.
We had no idea, and even the previous board had no idea what that was going to affect, because you can bill a salary, but they don't account for the FICA, for the insurance, and all the other
Yeah, a
things.
lot of hidden
It
costs.
cost a lot of
It's
money.
almost
in there.
times 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was something that if I had been back there at that point on board, I would have thought longer, harder about that.
So the reason I bring this up, I'm not pointing directions to you. I'm just saying, did you guys get what was due to the company? And that's where I want to find that answer out. And I think it's worthwhile for us to go through to understand why this started out whole, because this might be it might be a different story. You might be in here today getting praise about how good it's doing because you had plenty of startup money, but you guys started out with 0 basically.
Mhm.
And this is where I have a problem with, because this business was taken, and I know I wasn't involved in it. But I would assume that because I'm looking at your billings, they don't come in a week. They come 2 or 3 weeks after you bill. I don't see the date they were received. That'd be a good thing to have on your thing too, before we know how long.
So part of that is we consolidated that down on that spreadsheet so that we wouldn't be printing 4 pages per month.
Yeah.
To bring here. I mean, we have all of that information.
We can put that all back in and email you guys.
It's all there.
Yeah, to me, and I don't know, I'm gonna get the call. We'll get this. We'll start out, we're gonna get the call volumes from from January of 21. And all the way up to December. And then we'll look at that if we can get them records. If you can come across some records, the same format. I don't know if that's where you got this format from.
We created
Well,
that
it's there.
format to help our.
Actually, what you have there is down is different from what I had. That was just taken off.
Board of directors, no matter how we tried to explain to them what was happening with the insurance companies and delays. We had to get it something visual, so we created something visual so they can actually see how the.
And I think this is something that I don't know if we can request, I think we can, is for Medicare and all these other ones, a copy of everything that was paid out after January 1st, 2022.
Request from them.
From all these entities that where they normally build at, if you can dig through that and find out if there's any other money that got paid out. I'm just saying, you guys started in a hole, because that's why you came here, because it was going to decline. And that's why we did the money when we was thinking that the back billing would take care of it, and never did. Something's wrong.
I'm telling you now, the billing today, they're billing, it's within about 2 weeks of time of service. Once we got caught up the last few months, everything, and I don't know the dates on everything. The billing now, I know they're submitting the billing every week, every 2 weeks. They're submitting it now. It goes in within a couple weeks after the service. And the last 5 months probably reflect a pretty normal operation. Even the normal operation, I think we're losing $78,000 a month. So that's my feeling.
So what's the city want? I mean, you're here to discuss this. What do you want?
We need to know whether the county is going to help cover the hole, or if they are not. Because if they are not, then that means that we got to do some things. Well, whether you are or not, we've got some things to do. And I've got other information. I've given you the call report. I've also got
The revenue tracker you're looking at That's a real detailed rabbit line trailer. You can track that thing every time. I can account for, when I go through that revenue tracker, I can account for every penny of what was billed, how it was funded. There's a column, I don't know if it showed on the far right side, that shows a zero in it. That column's not zero, there's an error in there somewhere. So that balances. And if you go down the bottom line numbers down there, once that's all balanced, that's the number that goes into that profit and loss.
Yeah, your verification line.
I've got a double verification. I verify it on the revenue tracker and I verify it again on profit and loss. That number, you see a line on the revenue track on the profit and loss that says zero. That number is also got to balance out. So the numbers you see are accurate for what we've got. You got the call information.
Do you write off Medicaid stuff?
But write off Medicaid?
Yeah.
Medicaid, when you get Medicaid, say you have to bill $1,000 for Medicaid. They're going to give you about 15%. They're going to give you like $150 and the rest of it's a write-off. That for Medicaid, $1,000 bill, you're going to get about $150, 15–16%. I don't have it with me, I guess the form I have, it shows the percentage for the insurance. Blue Cross Blue Shield is pretty good. Medicare, they're going to adjust it. They're going to do an adjustment. I don't know how they do their adjustment. They say, here's what we think it's worth. They'll give you 80% of what they think it's worth. Now you can build a secondary insurance for the other 20%. And sometimes you may get it, sometimes you may not. But basically on the three insurances that are state aid, they give you about 15%, and the rest of it you get a write-off, and you can now even go to the patient and try and collect money. You can't try and collect, that's it. They tell you, here's what you're going to get, eat the rest of it.
And gentlemen, we've also currently have about 140,000 sitting in collections. From previous years.
Previous years.
Oh,
Yeah, previous years,
Why, what's a merit group? Why are you writing off all of the merit groups?
That's because
it's a state aid.
It's a state aid. You can't, they give you, if you look at there's a payment on there, whatever that payment, that's what you get. You can't, the rest of it, you have to
There is
write
no
off.
payments.
And then
Zero.
I don't know which one you're looking at.
All of them.
You go into December, merit group, zero. Merit group, zero.
Well, we haven't collected anything yet. Probably. Those are December ones that haven't been, we haven't received anything.
You're waiting for the check.
Let me go back to your comment. You have 100,000.
About 150,000 roughly from the previous year.
It's showing as zero, that means it's probably.
There's a lot of money.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
It's out of Austin. This is our.
I don't see any in merit groups that were paid.
They pay like 50%. They do, they hit us hard, but we did finally are moving. We've been approved now. Started submitting for offsets for taxes.
So that's your money.
That's our money, so we're.
All three of them in January were no payments. Two of them in February, no payments. Two of them in March, no payments.
I go down in January, I'll go ahead and show you.
Write-offs, zero.
You go down in January, the first American group, you come down here. Amount of payment right there, 189. Adjustments for zero and write off 975. Well, that's the secondary. That's the secondary one. That says you've already written their secondary insurance. Their secondary insurance.
Okay, all right.
So you get down there.
Corrected.
Okay.
Thank you.
189 and the
I
adjustments.
see zeros out here and I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Well, that's a balance left there, which means you had a 189.99 payment and a write-off of 974.01 on that one. So $974 of that one, you just got to eat that.
All right. Thank you.
Good.
This is.
No, but thank you.
This is what our coverage is, we believe.
Those are the calls in American Group, Iowa Total Care, and regular Iowa Medicaid that they can get the GEMT money back from the federal share of Medicaid for being a municipal organization. Once they've got a year under their belt.
Which we're getting started on.
Yeah.
You won't get that till the middle of 2024 at the best.
Right.
Right, but
It's gonna be small,
I mean-
it's not gonna be a high percentage of it.
What do you think? 40, 50,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll show up 18 months from now.
Yeah,
But
but
Not
I
an
think
easy
where
system,
they're
not an
getting-
easy system to work
that
with,
takes a pretty big chunk off the end of that.
Where they're getting $150, they're gonna get
but we gotta survive. for
8 or
18
9
months.
months.
That's a big number, yeah.
Yeah, it just depends. Yeah.
Right.
And you have to wait a year.
Yeah, it takes,
Yeah.
we have to produce a year of information for them.
Yeah.
Then you can start
What's
doing,
broke with that system?
we start doing in January 2023, and they'll pay you back in about July of 2024.
Well, don't be investigating that system because it's really, it's.
So once you get into it. Here's a long time when you need that. Hey, to answer your question, as far as this is the Brad talking, as far as putting more money into it, I wanna definitely get into this a lot deeper. And I wanna see, because we can't continue to put money in something that's going the wrong way.
That's fine.
Are we gonna have to go a different direction sometime? And I don't know what the answer is. This is Brad talking. I haven't, these guys don't know my, hope they're not figuring out what I'm thinking all the time.
I'll be glad to go through everything from 2022 in detail, but you're gonna sit down, something go
I
wrong, line to
do want to sit down and
I think we're 100% accurate on 2022.
I think you are too. I'm not.
I put it together, so
My biggest thing is where, I just don't see the money you got on transfer as adequate for what your services mean.
we can't have.
I am not saying anybody's doing anything wrong, but I just want to make sure, did it get billed? If it didn't get billed, why the heck not?
I agree
And
with
that's why I asked Sandy if she could get us the call from January of 2021 to December 31st of 2021. And I want to see them numbers, and I want to see by talking, if I have to go in a little bit deeper, if we have to get legal involvement, I want to see if these entities paid out. And I want to see what you received when you took over the business. You took over this business, way I would think, with the understanding that you was going to get all past due billings back to you to help get this thing started. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, but we were also,
Did you get it? That's my
yeah,
question.
we got what was in the checking account and whatever they had submitted.
It might not have
claims.
billed.
We didn't even inherit on people that did the billing, as far as I know. Is that true?
That's true.
That's true.
But
Yeah, so when I started, Linda was working on all the, doing that, pretty much doing the billing, having some folks help her. For us, it was a lot of help from Cindy and Jen, one of my full timers, took the billing courses, and I mean, there's a lot of it we've had to figure out, and these guys from Waplo have been amazing to help us.
That's the way it's supposed to be. We're all supposed to be on the same
We've had
page.
great support.
I don't care what line you have, let's get rid of lines, but
Yeah,
my biggest thing is I want to make sure that the city, when they took it over, got what was coming to them.
right.
and
We'll get those records dug up and passed on.
Please. And then I'd like to have, again, this is Brad talking, I would like to have, because I think you're asking for help, and we have money in the game,
we're gonna need more help.
and that's what, I don't know, what, I gotta make changes. I can't put money in something that's not performing the way it's supposed to.
And that's fine. All, as the
I'm
city,
not doing tax.
as the city of Columbus Junction, all I gotta know is if you're gonna or not, because if you're not,
I'm not gonna commit to it till we're gonna.
because the city, I've asked our clerk. What, if you put every line item on the tax askings that we could do, and no matter how iffy it might be, what is the maximum amount we could take in and it won't cover this? So that means the city of Columbus Junction cannot nor will not cover it. So I'm not the one that makes the decision, but likely what we would do is shut it down.
I get it.
From my standpoint, and being the Waplo mayor, I saw the financials for the Waplo ambulance. I saw the merger from the smalls to the city, and I'm gonna say it went fairly well. I'm going to say there wasn't a couple of hiccups, but I thought it went fairly well. And I can look at those financials on Wapello, and then I look at the financials on this side. The populations from the north side of the county and the south side of the county are about the same. And for the life of me, I'm trying to go, what is going on?
I don't think the population is similar. I gave you that. We're covering over 8,000 people. What is the population of the county?
11,500.
So we've got over 8,000 of them, and 3,000 were out of here.
It's not totally true because you have Grandview on here, and I know, and I'm not trying to split hairs. That's.
But we also have a 1,300 employer sitting
You do,
across the river from us.
A lot of our calls over there.
and the actual number is even higher than that today, so.
Yeah, and if the 8,000 people does not include the 1,300 that are working there.
And there,
But the call
Non-county
volume is the same.
Yeah, but we've got 4 full-time people.
And that might be part
we're
of your
splitting
problem.
hairs, but
And then if we drop down to less than that, then we have not had success in getting the proper volunteers.
And why is that?
You tell me,
Is it internal problems from within?
you tell me.
Is it
If you look at all the services
personality
right now,
conflicts?
if you look at all the services in this area, they're all hurting for volunteers. Durant Ambulance can't cover their ambulance 24/7 right now because they don't have enough volunteers.
My feeling is the pandemic created lazy people with this.
that's
my
my
favorite.
favorite.
People don't want to
see volunteers that is part of our communities. And we're losing that heart, and it's hard for us. I'm a fireman, been a fireman for a long time. I was on the ambulance, been on it a long time. Volunteerism is what makes this country, and without it, we're gonna hurt. And that's where we gotta get it back. We gotta figure out how to do it. But the big thing is how long are you thinking before you're gonna put your hands up? I want to start these meetings right away, and I don't want to do it just on Tuesdays.
We're in a budgeting process, and we'll probably budget what we would think would be normal for the ambulance service as the city of Columbus Junction for us. And I guess when the money's gone, I guess I go up and I get the keys.
Well, make a phone call before you do that. But the biggest thing is we gotta get this fixed before that comes in.
Yeah,
We cannot get anything.
from a cash standpoint, I'm thinking maximum 6 months.
We got a lot of work to do quick.
And in the,
Yeah,
I think it's like that. I think 4 months.
in the meantime, Mark and I have talked about, maybe we start talking to the other towns we serve. And see if we can get something from them.
What was that again?
I was saying, Mark and I were talking, that maybe we need to get out and start talking to these other towns that we serve as well.
But
I mean, we're talking probably pennies, but.
that's where
That's a Band-Aid.
and to be honest with you, that's where the emergency
That's-
services designation and all that's going to come into play.
If it passes.
If it passes. And
And it's 18 months behind, guys. This ain't.
well, yeah, it's 2024. That's what I've been telling you.
Yeah.
As I've come down here, is we're not going to make it there.
No. We see it. That's why we're having this meeting today.
I don't like just throwing money at stuff.
Oh,
I gotta sit back and go, okay, I'm willing to spend
This
some
ain't
money,
pushing DC.
but what changes are we making? What are we trying to do to make it better? So we're not just, money just doesn't fix everything.
Well, don't misunderstand me either. The city of Columbus Junction isn't going to throw money at just anything.
We're not asking.
You know, again, the citizens of Columbus Junction got 1,800 people out of the 8,000. So I don't know as we're going to either.
But what changes can we make
That's where we need to.
other than money?
To be right honest with you, if you're going to have 4 full-time people, you can cut maybe $10,000–15,000 out of that, but that's what you're looking at. If Wapello has to go to it, or these others have to go to it, as a county and your emergency services, that's the figure you're looking at.
You lost me. What are we cutting? You said.
Oh, you can go in there and say, well, don't let the truck idle, so you can cut off. You can start cutting incidental expenses, but the incidental expenses isn't what's doing it. It's the 4 full-time people. So if you're gonna, the only way to do away with that is you start either cutting people out.
It's the wrong way.
And then we're gonna have to count on volunteers, which we haven't been able to do.
You want
Or
to
you shut it down
by reducing your workforce. It's very hard. You know, a lot of people make that. That's usually a fall of you're going to be bankrupt.
Does
And
the
that's
city of
say-
Columbus Junction own all the assets of the Louisa County ambulances?
Sure, yes.
Do you own the building?
No.
No, that's the only thing
They
I'm
rent.
saying. They don't own all of them. They own the ambulances, but they do not own that building.
They rent the building.
Right.
And I don't know the ambulance service down here. And I don't need to. I don't know about the books on it. I don't know what's included or not included, but every expense, utilities, the whole ball of wax is in that. Everything is in that bookkeeping. There isn't anything, well, because it's the city will do this.
I do have.
And you know, if the city does pay for it, but it's still in those books.
It's in a different format. I think I got a copy of it.
I had one response, one of your questions where you was asking about the dates. All those dates are in there. Somehow they got deleted here because it becomes an eye chart if you try and put all the columns in there. I've got all those dates and I can get that information anytime you want it.
Yeah, and the reason I was asking, because it was on there and I like that because I see where you use
Oh,
that.
yeah, I use it all the
And then
time.
July 1st, it stopped. And it was a column I liked.
I know they went back to try and this chart got huge and you got to get your magnifying glass out to read it. So they told me they were going to remove some things in there they thought that we didn't need to have on this chart, and that's one of them probably got removed. All of them are in there, and I can sit down and go through in detail line by line on this, but if you want, let's put the act on.
Well, what I do like to
Not right
have,
now, of course, but
I'd like to have more conversation. And I appreciate the WAPO representation here today, because this is, we're all one.
Yes.
So our whole thing is protecting our county people. And I don't care how we do it, but we got to do it the most efficient way for per dollar tax. Tax dollars, you should be able to get $2 of benefits for every dollar you spend. That's why I hope for the
Well,
county.
after taking this over and now having a year's worth of experience, the county should be running all the ambulance services, whether the others disagree or agree with me is irrelevant. The county that'll run them, fine. It's just a matter of when. Because you've already got the problem, as I understand, maybe in morning sun, that's maybe not as steady a coverage as what it's like, and so you're having to cover out of here. You know, 20 for let's see, 32%. 32% of the calls are inside the city limits of Columbus Junction. 24% of the 32 is only managed.
If you had like, well, 200 was the cutoff on whether
We get a lot of calls out at our.
Yeah, you do. And you've got a good set of volunteers and you're paying 2 good people to run yours, and I'm not picking on it at all. I'm just saying we at the moment don't seem to have volunteers. I'm not seeing where they're going to come from. And the numbers are a bit bigger than Columbus Junction. Even if we wanted to, I can't raise enough money to cover it.
Yeah.
our culture just won't support a certain level.
And you can forget the culture. I don't care about the culture. Everybody is having, fire departments are having trouble getting volunteers. Fair board's having trouble getting volunteers. Everybody's having trouble getting volunteers.
Whole world scene.
And I take a look at these kind of services, and when you had the sheriff in here talking about wanting special kind of gloves, because they don't know what they're gonna run into when the day of volunteers in ambulance services and police departments is gonna come to an end.
I hope not.
Well, it's gonna.
Can't afford it.
Well, you might not be able to afford it, but you can't afford to
I'll tell
have
you right now,
somebody
I
out.
can't afford it. Volunteers makes this country where it
I
is.
understand that, but.
And without it, we can't afford to
but these
operate. Our
particular
volunteers are so important to
But
us.
these particular kind of services, the danger to the people doing it is escalating. And it's, you know, it's different than being a fair board member or a
A
volunteer.
volunteer on an ambulance and fire department, I'm gonna go with you on this, but I'm telling you from, this has been mine. It's not the fear for your life, it's the heart of helping people. And it takes a special person to do that. It's not a DNA thing, you've got to want it. And maybe growing up with emergency squad 51 in your life makes that grow up on it. But when you're a volunteer,
But you're gonna get.
to your public, you put your life in line every time.
Yeah, but it's gonna get to the
And
point
most
that
people
that
won't do
people
that.
won't do it, and not only that, the services can't afford.
We're seeing that.
To put people in that kind of a position.
But we gotta find out what's causing that volunteer. Squad 51 was mine. I'll tell you right now.
Well, it's the new generation.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not getting volunteers that are 28 years old and younger. They're gonna go and they're gonna work a second job, or they're gonna go and they're gonna go on vacation. They're gonna do for them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
who's smarter? I don't know.
Who's gonna watch your kids grow up? We didn't get a chance to.
You're exactly right.
A lot of them, you talk to people about possibly becoming a volunteer with whatever organization that is. And you talk to them about some of the time commitment, and it's not that, I don't think it's not that any of the services in this area are asking for them to be there every waking minute. But a lot of people say, well, I just don't have time for that. Between my job, between my kids, between this, between that, I just don't have time for it.
And we made it work.
That's it.
Do you know how many paramedics or EMTs within their district is not volunteering today? And if so, why?
I don't know that number. Good question. I don't know.
A lot of ours are in Washington,
Yeah, they work in other agencies.
full-time people in Washington.
Okay,
Well, we need to get our agenda back on the
Yeah.
schedule here, but we need to continue having.
I would like to set something up there. I want to get some information. I just don't want to have meeting to have meetings. We have enough of that in our life. But I'd like to do is get information. I'm gonna see what I can do if I have to get Adam involved in it, like reach out and find out our call volume, see what got billed. If you guys can find out your documents, then we'll have a meeting after that. But we need to find a solution.
Fine. If you have any questions on our revenue.
I
chart,
definitely
our
will be.
loss, let me know. I'll answer any question you want.
I want to get your number before you leave, but I definitely will reach out because no, there's nothing wrong with the way you guys got bookkeeping. I just want to understand the numbers, what you got starting out.
From a statistic standpoint, I bet we've got more than most,
Well,
as far as statistics and all that.
I just want to make sure you guys got,
You want me to?
I feel like, I should say, I'm not gonna say. That's my gut. I'll just say, that's obviously to be. Cause he's writing down
But
everything.
this would be a fairly typical year for the ambulance with 4 full-time people. That's what it's gonna be, so.
Let me ask you this question. I'll put it in a different way. January, what do you think you're gonna receive? In February, what do you think you're gonna receive? March, what do you think you're gonna receive from the previous year?
January, what I've seen so far in January, we're gonna be we're gonna be better, I think, than we were in November and December, putting it down. I'm trying to think as of a week, several days ago, I think we did 23. But then last week, we had 23 items that we could fill. I don't have the actual number, but I did looking better than I don't know what I November, December.
That 58,000. And what's it say, percent?
Yeah.
50%. Looks like about an average. So that's what we're gonna get.
In 20.
It's a max, you know, and max, I want me, it's like I said, the information, I don't, you just have to negotiate the whole court.
Because if you're this far behind, here, this is where I just. You did it all the second, but it didn't get built.
Yeah, but that, all of the ones that we haven't gotten yet, no matter what month they were in, are all right there. All of them.
How long does it take once you bill it to get the money? I didn't
Now,
see that.
today, 2 to 3 weeks. Isn't that true, Jim?
Yeah. Excuse
And
me.
today's billing, now that we've
That's
got
what we-
everything caught up, we got all the tax crap taken care of and all that stuff done. We bill it probably 2 to 3 weeks, some of them maybe even less than that.
Some of them might
It's
take
just kind of
more
flowing through pretty good now.
And
I will throw this out that there are times when if you're billing Blue Cross, that you're gonna go in and you're gonna check the deductible. A good biller is anyway, because you're gonna get paid from Blue Cross a lot better than you are sending that deductible bill to the patient.
Blue Cross is
We think that we're gonna pay our $800 deductible for Blue Cross, but it's a lot easier if the hospital absorbs that. And you wait 30 days to bill Blue Cross and you're like, oh, it's satisfied.
Yep.
Now I'm getting a check from Blue Cross.
Yep.
So there's that and other independent agency or insurances.
Okay.
You would want to wait and check deductibles on, but your normal Medicare and Medicaid is a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's flowing pretty good.
And we knew that. But my command back at the beginning of the year was get the stuff billed. We've got zero income, get the stuff billed. We can play footsie over deductibles later.
I'm not gonna say more, but I'd like to, let me get some information. And let's get a meeting set up.
Let's, yeah, get them. In 2 weeks, maybe try to do this again.
Give me a week to see if I can get some information. And I just don't want to have a meeting. I want to talk to others and get some ideas. I just don't want to have a meeting to have a meeting. I don't like listening to myself talk, so I just.
Maybe look at the first week in February. This is the 24th.
Or the second week.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna be pushing it.
What's the date?
We don't know yet. We'll get back to you. I want to have all my ducks in a row before I go have another meeting. I want to get more information.
I agree. Sounds like the right way to do it.
Yeah, I don't want to take some of these people's time.
Possibly February 7th.
Or another day. Because they don't have to be at this meeting.
No, or we're gonna have a work session.
We got a lot of budgeting to do in the next
Yes.
Yeah.
couple of weeks, so I don't want to get anything.
We do.
I know.
We all do.
Let's get a lot of this behind us where we can put our efforts and our ideas exactly to this problem, okay? But thank you for everybody coming in. This is dear to my heart. I want to make sure that we do the best thing for the county. It's not the best thing for each city, it's the best thing for this county, and we all are on that whole path. I want to represent all people, so.
I really should this be more of an advisory thing.
Or a work station.
I think a work session would be the
Because there'll be a
best thing.
supervisor on that to work with all the.
Yeah, and yeah, I just think that, I don't know, maybe the first meeting or two, I think all three of us should be sitting in front. And then after that, then we can put one person on, it, but get the direction we want to go. What do you, everybody think? Okay.
I don't know if there's.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah,
But
I
we're
don't
gonna
know the
work towards
answer,
it,
but
so.
I'm willing to have one.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
one out from under this.
So,
I would
thank
be
you.
willing to have one.
Sure, for waiting.
Yes, that's why I said thank you. Run the meeting. Chris, thank you.
Doesn't look like Benita came in, huh?
Benita and Brad are both there.
Oh, okay, well, let's make it happen.
Bring him in.
We got a share too.
Yeah, we're grab a chair.
Yeah,
Hello.
thank you, Sam. It's a naughty chair. That's the same.
Oh, you're moving off.
Oh, come on.
Come on, we didn't make. Thanks.
Oh, you shit.
Oh, no.
You wanna have a seat?
Not really,
You wanna sit in that one? You wanna sit in a more comfortable one?
not really.
Come on back. Why don't you come over here and sit in this
I've got
comfortable
this.
seat there, okay? Sit by Jim. Somebody's gotta keep an eye on him.
If I see.
Thank you.
in the wrong thing, I'll look at your arm.
Good.
Okay, sorry we made you wait a while. We've been arm wrestling here with all these guys. That's where we started on your guys' position.
Well, as you know, I have talked to you.
Yep.
A couple times about the charges for our law enforcement contract. We are not unhappy with the law enforcement. We think they do a fantastic job. That's number one on the list. I'm not here to try to get restitution of any kind. But during the actually 10 years, I'll say, from the flood time, our costs for the law enforcement increased and was more than what we felt it should be. Our per capita dropped way down from 472 down to 0. We know that in 2008. And yet we paid the full amount that was the per capita at that time was 472. Right. And dropped to 0 on to 73, and then it is judged at 173 now to 200. So we feel that we have been paying for the 472 amount in this 10-year span. We don't know that. And I have asked the question, is it judged on per capita? How is the charges, how are they figured? What all is included? I asked that in 2001, but in 2008, I asked it. 2021, I asked again and asked you.
No.
And no one seems to know what the formula for figuring the charges for law enforcement. I know it would judge with taxation. All that would enter into it, what you'd have available or whatever. And I figured that anyway. In 2001, when we signed the contract, they were trying to judge how much at that time. And if you want me to read this here, they received the application and calls from quite a few people interested in a job for the city. Most are reserved but didn't have the certification. Kurt Brady showed the contract was left, which he felt would be what the city would need. City would be charged $9,604.92 per year, with the city paying monthly charges of around $800. He stated that when calls come in, most urgent first and then less urgent last. He stated most, fines come back to the city. There will be a meeting to coordinate the codes for violations countywide, so each will be the same. Otherwise, the Washington Drug Task Force will include Oakville. City will have a July to July contract. And they approved that. And to my knowledge, we have the contract that we have every year. Nothing is said about per capita in that contract.
Right.
And
Thanks, guys.
so it leaves you kind of hanging in midair as to what all is. Maybe you know from being mayor of Waco how they figure. We get a statement saying your dues for this month is $450 or whatever, you know. We pay it all through 8. We paid our full contract. Even when no one was there but Cody and me, but anyway, we paid the full amount. We have always paid whatever they said. You get the line that says what you owe or what you're gonna owe. And that's that. So the question is it designed with per capita in that contract anywhere? What is the,
Well, I think,
how do you judge?
when we was doing the Fredonia contract, anybody correct me if I'm wrong. That's when we noticed that Oakville was still paying.
Was that 2 years ago?
Been maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we lowered your contract
To 5408.
Yeah, finally.
That's how I mean, it was kind of.
It's
A
27.
little bit of everybody's mistake, but it's something that we didn't. It come up when we was reviewing the Fredonia contract and. Like, why is Oakville still way up here? Because they're more of a population like Fredonia. So,
But that was 2001.
no, that did,
21.
In 21, you did
Yeah.
with Fredonia.
Fredonia.
That's the other one here.
yeah,
And I have not done the legwork to find out if we were basically what Let's was in 2001. I don't know.
Let's is pretty similar to what Oakville
Well,
was pre-flood.
Yeah,
The 485. 500, well, it's under 500, that's why they lost their main street.
Yeah, it's 300. So I think I'm getting this all now.
But,
mhm.
so it's somewhat
Well,
our fault and somewhat your fault that we overcharged you for 10 years.
Well, during the 10-year span, we paid $12,000 there for 5 months. And 11,900. So it went way high.
Yeah,
And we didn't have the amount of people, but whether the contract even considered the per capita is kind of the question that would settle it.
I think from my standpoint, it wouldn't necessarily be by per capita. It would be, that would be a factor to it, but it would also be based on call volume. Because you might have a town of 100 people that are great and you never get a call, or you could have a town of 100 people where the police are down there twice a night.
Yeah.
That would be my standpoint. I don't know what their criteria is, but that's how I would look at it.
What I feel needs to be done is something needs to be set in stone, more or less. The contract as is kind of an iffy thing. It doesn't detail out enough to really judge whether it's right or wrong. And that's not the right position.
Sure, what's your choice?
Don't like that. Anyway.
I'm not 100% sure how to say this, but maybe moving forward, there could be like maybe a meeting with the contract mayors, or at least a representative from those cities that are covered by contract, and we all get together and talk about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think historically, kind of what Sean just said, I think per capita was a big part of it historically, comparing population and that type of thing. But I do also think other things came into a factor. So to sit there and say that there is an exact formula, X times A, you know, I don't think there's gonna be. But what's fair? So I think I'm trying to answer Janina's question is that I don't think you can come up with an exact formula, but if we can all get together and talk about it, we can probably come to a reasonable amount. Me personally, I think it costs a lot more than what the contract towns are paying. It costs a lot more for law enforcement than what they're paying, but I also realize the financial situation there. And if I heard correctly, in 2001, you know, the contract in over 20 years ago was over $9,000. And you're currently paying less than $6,000.
5,408.
So, I mean, just.
But the population.
Yes,
but the costs haven't gone
down. It went from 2020, from 12,000 down to then in 21.
Yeah.
And that's when we talked, I know, was way back then, and you questioned it at the supervisor meeting, and that's when it dropped to the 54.
But what Brad's trying to say is the cost of fuel hasn't gone down.
Oh,
Just because you got less people, that car still goes through town,
and there's got to
the
be
cars still are costing more.
Yeah.
He's saying it went down, but the cost of everything else has gone up, and I'm not trying to defend him, I'm just trying to.
No.
Yeah.
And I think there needs to be a minimum that we can go down to that coverage because of, if we add up everything we have on there, it's far less than probably $70,000 for cities. I just went through, here's all of our costs, and if you look at the population centers, and the reason Morning Sun's higher than the rest, because there's extra patrol in their contract that they required. So that's not the norm, but there's 730 and Morning Sun. This is all 21 from the census, 196 in Oakville, 357 in Letts, 441 in Grandview, and 218 in Fredonia. But I agree, there has to be a minimum amount to go down on there. But I think it's something he said that I really like is he gets with you guys and find out.
Well,
Get it open.
Yeah, it's not gonna be maybe us having a flood is some other disaster.
Well,
Where another town is flattened out. What do you do with the charge? And we have no argument at all with the
You know, a lot of times
contract
when we're at the
as
lowest,
such.
well, the law enforcement the highest. You know, that's.
Well, I'd hate to try to work with their budget.
and it's
Oh, yeah.
good
And-
for everybody to meet. To see
I think that's the answer.
better ways of coverage or changes in coverage that may happen in the future.
How do other counties maybe, what do their contracts for?
I bet Wapella would trade their contract with yours.
Right now. So you also, what do they,
I bet Wapalla's contract would trade with yours right now. Theirs is paying a lot.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
What do you think you should be paying?
And be honest with you, I don't think
You know-
it should be your dialect.
The pricing isn't what I'm
Go under than us,
really hitting on.
but.
Yeah, you know,
Should be.
it's not about restitution, it's about justification.
Quality.
I understand.
I know we're on the same. thing,
And
but
we are not, it did not, it's not justified by having 10-year span of not having this corrected.
Yeah.
you know, and say, you know, there's no one in that town. Brad said he didn't go into the town. I said, well, it was spooky, you know, because we were the only two people there for a few nights. But, and you know, we had no city hall to operate from, even until August 1st. So, I said I was at fault because I didn't catch this in 2008. But we did question it then.
Well, there are
And-
bigger problems going on
and-
right then.
yeah.
Than that.
And
You had a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
did not have, they didn't have an answer, it was auditor. So, yeah. And so anyway, I just wanted you to be mindful of the fact that it needs to have something done with how you judge,
In the future.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Every town has an area or certain citizens who do not help you are quite the charge.
Yeah. They're not-
And in hindsight,
No.
maybe they should have,
Yeah,
I don't know,
but yeah,
that's a while.
Yeah.
The sheriff said that maybe have a meeting, and I think that's because it needs to go through the sheriff.
that's what I kind of was wanting. And Sandy said, well, you could come to the meeting, and
Yes.
since that was
It
the
needs
only
to
way
go
to,
that direction. And he
contact you.
recommends to us
Yep.
after agreement,
I agree.
we don't set his policy. That's what he's elected for.
A time when we can do some. And maybe by that time you can contact some other supervisors or how they handle. I
Might be able to reach out another, yeah, that, because we know a lot of supervisors from other counties and find out kind of what they're doing to share that, or. And Brad can reach out to other sheriffs also, because they're the ones that set policy, it comes from the state that they set
Well, and we don't want that. That's not what this is about.
that.
It's them having anything cut. Or if there was to be any
They're asking for that one.
Oh, they are.
change, why?
Yeah, I don't think I think we're just looking at what's fair to each community. I think that's what your
Yeah.
question was to us.
Yeah.
At least we can find out what other communities are doing. We can find out whether the sheriffs, how they make that. I don't know. But it's something to look into. I'm glad you brought it up to us. I know for a community that was 400 down to 196 in the last census, it's tough. Every dollar has to be accounted for.
Well, we definitely need dollars.
Yep.
I certainly won't say that we wouldn't take any money.
Yeah.
Because that would be a foolish statement.
Thank you for bringing that up to us.
So, but anyway, I have asked numerous times and no one seemed to have an answer.
How about we get you that answer?
We'll go in. Yeah.
And I thought this was the next step to settle.
Well-
Are you okay with that? Sheriff?
Absolutely.
Are you okay with that?
We're great.
I'm great.
We're great.
No,
Because we have not heard anything from supervisors. Heard very little.
we'll blame it on the new guy.
No, we apologize. Well,
Thank you for coming forward.
no, thank you. Be careful.
Ready?
Okay, we got a 9:45. Buffalo Community Ambulance.
Not back, Bill.
Yeah, we're getting into our budget time.
I'm gonna make you two feel 30, 40 years younger. I'm only asking for a quarter for the jukebox.
Okay.
Waplo Community Ambulance was maybe requesting an increase in subsidy. As you can see, sorry. In 2016, I think it was 16-17 budget, you guys give us a subsidy. $34,506. That was equivalent. We had 405 calls in 2017, which broke that down to about $85.20 a call. In 2022, our subsidy is $37,506 and 624 calls. And that subsidy breakdown per call is $60.10. So we've dropped, quite a bit since our last increase, not including, inflation that you can see on there. If we were getting now in 2022 is 624 calls, you'll see on that sheet, page 1, you'll see if we were getting the $85.20 per call subsidy, that would be an equivalent increase of $15,658. If you go down to the last paragraph, if you base it off of inflation since 16, that would boost that price per call up to $105 and some odd change. On the back page, it'll just show you a breakdown of the Louisa County's subsidy and calls for 2017 for Louisa County, Mormon, Sun, and Wapello, and then again also for 2022 for Louisa County, Mormon, Sun, and Wapello. So are asking, I know it's budget time, everybody's tugging at your pants pockets, but I'm going to join in and I'm not asking for a specific amount. Throughout the two numbers there, one was inflation and even one if we went back to the 2016 at 85.20, but those are the numbers. So if you got any questions, I'll be glad to answer. If I can't answer, if not, I'm sure one of these guys behind me that know a lot more about the ambulance service can answer that. So
Give me a number so we can plug it into a budget.
well, if you're gonna ask, I'm gonna say $28,238.
You're gonna drop off to 64 cents.
If you want me to ask.
That was big,
And that number there is the inflation. But again, we understand where EMS services, financially are, we're doing, we're fortunate, we're lucky. Where we're at with our volunteers and with our staff, we're running great. I think we just feel looking at the numbers breakdown, and I know it's hard to compare us, with Morning Sun and us with Louisa County with the situations we're at, but you can see that number on there is quite pretty big, large difference there with the call volumes that we're having, and roughly it does take per transport. An average price per transport for us is $948 per call. Transport. Sorry.
Well, we're gonna be smoke coming out our ears and turning into the budget here for the next couple of weeks. We'll take this into consideration and see what we can come up with. I mean,
you guys got anything to add?
you guys are an essential service. I know the public appreciates what you do, and we want to appreciate what you do, but we'll just see how bad our hands are tied or how much we got to work with. But
if we base that, I'm gonna ask a question, just thinking out loud. If we would base that per call on subsidies, would that be a more uniform method?
if you look at the back page, it's a little lopsided.
That's what I'm saying. You see where I'm going with this?
Oh yeah, I do. I don't know. I can only speak, and I can't even speak a lot of work or Wapello. I think Louisa County and Wapello are
Pretty close.
fairly close if you were to rationale into a percentage. But when you look at Morning Sun, I mean, they're getting $325 a call compared to our $60.
I know we have to have a base, but I'm just saying if we had a base in there, I'm just talking out.
Yeah.
If we had a base in there because you got to
say every year it would change.
Yeah, and then your call volume, because you had a huge year,
Right.
and that ambulance was never shut off. But if we would pay for performance, say if we had that in their first call, wouldn't that be more unified throughout the county? Than just, because I got a feeling here is, soon as this can of worms gets opened up, everybody's gonna say, except one, will come in and say, hey, our costs are up too. But if we did a per call with a minimum, I think it would be fair to the whole county, because you get paid for what you're doing. And that way it's uniform. If you have 800 calls next year, that increase is already built into it. You see where I'm saying?
Yep.
Because it don't look like it's gonna get less. Every year, if you go back from time, it's doing this. I bet if you had a graph out there, and it would be
You're
more
saying
fair.
that specific number would be the same per entity. I mean, everybody within the ones that can do.
Just something.
I think that'll work on the essential services one.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you couldn't implement it now, but that would be a fair way on the essential services. Now, you know that there's one community that's gonna have a problem with that.
But if we kept a base. But we have to look at.
I understand that. Just
One
be prepared.
community got an increase in their subsidy when nobody else did.
Yeah. And that was what, 5 years ago?
Who did?
About right.
Who did?
This whole thing needs to be
That's.
looked at, but to me, that would be a fair thought anyway. And like I said, I just came up with it, so I don't know if we have to think it through a little bit, but I think it's something that maybe we think about.
Yeah,
Both.
and I'd
all
say
our
think it
groups.
both ways, because what I think what we worry about is, if we do implement this, try to implement this on a vote, will it pass? I guess it'd be tough, for EMS.
60%.
I just.
Yeah,
We gotta have a backup plan in case. it
yes,
doesn't.
and that's what I'm saying, because these no transports don't make any money, but that way, at least there's a subsidy for that. I'm just talking.
Yeah,
This
I'm
might not
not
be
here
the answer,
saying, hey, we're in the red and we need that. It was
but we
just
want to
kind
catch it
of,
before you get down there.
it was just kind of highlighted. We looked at comparison and it was like, man, we're doing a lot and we're getting the lowest. And we're not asking for everybody else to take away or saying we need more. We're just, look at it.
And
see
you
what
can see
think.
where 5 years ago, Junction was the ambulance that was getting.
Yeah.
The heavy call.
Right.
Now it's.
Yeah.
And we're here to help each other. We all know that.
Right. Won't you guys chew on that a little bit and see if that makes sense? I don't know if it makes sense, but I think it would be a fair assumption that it would make sense, but we have to look at the total cost. And then what would be and then we'll have to talk to the other groups, what would be the minimum we would have to keep, because we have to have a minimum. Because sometimes there's months that you don't have very little calls.
Yeah.
And then once one starts, they don't come in threes anymore, they come in 33. So
I mean, I think that would be easy for us to figure out for Wapello, but when you look at the three.
yeah, we have to talk to each group.
If we're taking into consideration to accommodate Morning Sun and Louisa County at the same token, I don't know how it would.
Well, see, that subsidy would benefit you on mutual aid calls. This is where I'm thinking, because we talked about this and then Sean made a comment the other day, and somehow we got to change. Like if you go to Minneapolis to back them up, you're not charging them. But if you make that call, at least you're getting a subsidy back. I've been trying to think of something how it's more fair for the whole county.
Different Columbus going up to
Yeah.
Muscatine County or whatever.
And then that would take out the mutual aid divide line, because you're gonna get paid to go over there anyway to help. I'm not saying there's one there, but I want this neutral. I want everybody, I want no lines in the same.
No, I agree.
And I want everybody to benefit helping each other. That's.
You maybe don't want my opinion, but
Of
again, I think finally you're gonna come to a countywide, you're gonna get forced into it. My personal opinion is doing it by the call is just backwards of the way you ought to do it.
Is it?
Because the more calls you have, the more income you've got.
And not all the time.
And that's in theory why you're paying more now Morning Sun more, is because they don't have the call income.
Yeah. Well,
So, I don't think you can run off a straight call numbers. To be honest with you, I think you should run off of the bookkeeping if you're gonna do it. Run off the bookkeeping, and it might or might not correlate with calls.
I don't
totally agree
Let me
with
think
that.
about this for a
I
second.
don't see.
I think you would actually increase the revenue, because if you go back and look at your calls, there's a lot of them, you get paid zero.
Yeah, no transport.
A lot of them, zero. This way you would have an income.
But you shouldn't base it solely off of calls.
They're not calling themselves. And there's a diesel fuel cost, there's an ambulance wear and tear cost. Somehow we have to.
If you got staffed ambulance, you're gonna pay
Yeah,
so much a
somehow
year,
we
whether
have
you
to
get
make
10 calls or 1,000.
I want to
That's what you're
break a
making.
mutual aid plan. That's my whole goal. I don't want lines for fire departments. I want lines
Well,
for.
I don't think there should be either.
And I just think if you pay to play, I think it's gonna be more, I'm just, like I said, I'm talking out loud. I don't know if this is the answer, but this is how I.
Again, that's why I come back to, this is gonna end up as a county deal.
Very well possible.
You're not gonna be able to.
If the voters say,
Yeah,
but we got a
Because
plan.
you've got such different situations. And until they're melt together, you're not gonna get where you wanna go.
Here's my only, if it doesn't, we don't know if it'll pass, if it doesn't pass. If it doesn't pass, we're gonna operate the same and we're comfortable.
And see, we won't.
Right, and I don't disagree there. My issue with that, of then looking at that point is, and it's, I'm just gonna put it out there because it's stated is why, if Morning Sun has 103 calls, why should they get $33,000 and we got 624 calls and we're getting 37?
Then the county's supplying ambulance service to Morning Sun. That's why.
But they're not operating. I mean,
I know.
we're more or less operating.
Yeah,
Well,
I know.
if I remember right, we give them that raise because. Like what I said a minute ago, it takes so much to run an ambulance, whether you get 100 calls or 1 call.
Right. I don't.
And then that was getting to them as far as training and equipment.
Because we
I don't
recognize
think that
it's
was
such
it
a
at all.
service.
I think they got paid because they come in here and they asked for it.
I agree.
And to be honest with you, make sure you understand, I want the Wapello ambulance to get along absolutely wonderful.
Me too.
I don't care if Wapello gets 14 times the amount of Columbus Junction gets. I don't care.
Yeah.
All I care about is we're trying to run an ambulance service and cover our territory. And ours is different than this one,
Yeah.
which is different than
Yeah.
Morning Sun's.
Yeah.
We want it to operate. We need the
Correct.
ambulance service, period.
Correct.
How are we gonna do it?
Correct.
Nope, that's where we need to get our group together. To get ready for this
Absolutely.
election and make it an essential service.
Yeah.
To sell it to the taxpayers, to structure it for the future.
I think the first thing they need to ask themselves is if it doesn't pass and they make a phone call and they need an ambulance and one doesn't show up, what's gonna happen? What do you do? That's a hard question to ask. And nobody has that answer. You throw your dad in the back of the pickup when he's having a stroke and drive him to the hospital yourself? In January? I don't know those answers.
Is his life worth it?
Is it
That's a
worth
question.
the- right, is it worth the 75 cents
Chew on
per
that.
thousand or whatever
See
the
what you
hell
guys
it's gonna be?
Well, we're maybe not gonna be able to have the kind of coverage we like either.
Right.
I hate to say that. but-
Well, so some counties have hired. I think Jefferson County tried it for a while. They hired a firm from Cedar Rapids to come. Staff and run their ambulances and
Yeah, no, that ain't gonna work.
they didn't know L Avenue from Q Avenue and was going north.
And to be honest with you, all the Fairfield folks just walked out about a week ago.
Yeah, right. And they're talking like we are a county run ambulance. They're in the same ballgame we are right now.
That's where it's headed.
And up for Wapello, I mean, our you know, we got some disagreement here, but we'll agree to disagree is. We're very lucky with the volunteers and the staff that we have, and the bottom line is we won't. Take on anything or do anything that's going to hinder our own volunteers. That's what we're worried about most. And so whether it's you could sit here and say, hey, we'll give you a $500,000, but we're going to run it. We won't accept it because we feel that we'll probably lose all our volunteers. And we don't want to go down that path.
And it's working.
Right.
I think definitely what needs to be on the forefront here is establishment of the EMS Advisory Council for this tax. Because they have to decide and present to you basically how much money you tax for before you take it to the public to decide how much they're gonna allow.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you may have to come back
We need to get that
3,
answer.
4, 5 times. Let's pray that don't happen.
We have to do this soon.
But to say, you know, oh no, 75 cents, that's gonna do it. That's the max we can do. It's gonna make all these things happen. Then the public might say, nope. So then what do? You just dump it and then, or do you come back with 60 in a year? Or do you come back with 50? You know what I mean?
And what if that doesn't work?
Right.
That's not enough.
Yeah, what if,
They approve it, but it's not enough.
yeah. So
You have to get services.
the essential services definitely, and there's what, 4 out of 7 that passed right at the beginning of the year. Three of them didn't.
We're a baby boomer community.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and I'm getting older. I require more care than I did like yesterday. So I want you there. So, yeah.
We need to, I don't mean to change the subject, but there's one other thing, because I had a meeting with the Wapple ambulance not too long ago. Before I got on board, I was sitting out there, they approached the supervisors about an ambulance. They ordered it. They're working on it. They're coming to the final design. Is it still?
We'll know more in budget.
Because they asked
As
me,
far as I'm
I
concerned,
said, I don't know.
we need to be looking at.
That's something that we haven't.
We gotta see how much.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it.
We gotta see how much.
And we're gonna find that out at 10:30.
It's 10:35.
Well, go ahead and start with your review. You're 7 minutes over.
Well, no, I think we need to look more into this, and I'm not saying you guys are crazy, but I think it's that we need to look at. Something that fits the growing model.
Yes. And I'll just bring it back up and I'm done, but when Sean just touched on that ambulance, I think it's been 3 or 4 months ago since we had, and I can't remember when we had a discussion, it might have been on a highway news or something, but. You know, I think those funds at that time were spoken that we were gonna take that out of COVID relief funds on that ambulance.
Yeah.
So that's not waiting 18 months. For
And Mike, what was that number?
Roughly around 250, but I can't remember exactly.
Was that reduced number than what we originally talked about?
No.
Wasn't it 280?
Oh, it's 180.
It's somewhere between the 250 and 280. That's what I can tell you.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking it was 280 when we originally talked, and I knew he was doing some other thing because we had some equipment that was going to get transferred.
It might have been without the power lift and we
Yeah.
transferred the power lift.
Yeah, there was some equipment that we used transferring to the new unit, so.
We gotta have people to drive it too.
We got one with Wapple.
I also think we
You got your application?
We need to sit down and look at where the ambulances are based in the county and.
You can talk about
We need to sit down and talk about how and where the ambulances are based in this county, and
We got a lot.
there's one in Grandview. Does it need to be in Columbus? Does it need to be in Wapple? Is it better suited in those areas, or do we keep it there?
That's where that group needs to be working on. We need to get this on our radar, get this on our agenda.
If
next
we
week
can
or
do
the
that,
week
I think
after.
all of us can operate
Yes,
more efficiently,
I do.
better.
but it needs, that group needs to make it.
I mean, if there's nobody staffing the ambulance in Grandview during the day and Wapello is responding, or Columbus Junction, why is it sitting there? No,
Let's put it where the people are at, they're gonna staff it.
that's for another meeting.
I know.
We need to get our group together and you
It's
guys
important.
can arm wrestle over all this.
Thank you for bringing that up.
I think that concludes our regular meeting for the week. We should probably adjourn this one and then open up another
I'll make a
budget session.
motion, we adjourn our.
Second.
Okay, now motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
And I know we probably need a motion to go into budget work session.
Thanks.
See you guys.
You wanna make that?
Sure, second, motion, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'll second.
All right,
Thanks.
well,
Thanks.
all in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks.
have a good day.
Guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we gotta clear off our desk and ready for the good stuff.
Those are the meetings I'm used to.
Well, I don't want that.